Zaid, I know you're really excited about it, but the government won't let you do MK Ultra 2.0. And welcome back
Yeah.
to the 2 a.m. podcast.
MK Ultra just sound. It's basically. You know what that title is? It's Mortal Kombat Ultra.
MK Ultra sounds like a
Speaking-
milk brand.
Speaking of which, are you down to go see the new movie that's coming out?
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Are you actually down? Because I
No,
just want to
straight
go to
up.
a theater.
Well, I immediately after seeing the trailer already looks better than the '90s one.
Wait, which
by
movie?
miles.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Well,
I just want to go to the theater, so I'm down to see anything.
Godzilla versus Kong.
I'm not down for that.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Everyone said it was trash.
Yeah, isn't that like the 13th iteration that they've created?
Literally.
Yeah.
How many Godzilla movies have they dropped in the past
I don't
5
know.
years alone?
I don't know, but I have a spoiler alert kind of for that movie. I don't know if you heard about this, but
Please
No.
spoil it.
Yeah,
so I
spoil
asked
the
the
hell out of it.
infamous question, who won? Because that's the whole point of the movie, right? King versus what was it? Godzilla versus Kong, sorry.
Well, Kong's supposed to be the good guy, right?
yeah.
And Godzilla's the evil monster who's not fighting another evil monster.
Yeah, no discrimination there.
Which, I never thought he was the most evil
Don't
thing.
discriminate against giant mutant lizard monsters that live at the
Yes.
bottom of the ocean.
Diversity, equality.
What do you mean?
I don't even know, but
No
what-
lizard shaming. Come
I'm
on.
sorry, I wasn't listening to a word you said. What were you saying?
Yeah. So what I was saying was I asked the question, who won?
Yeah.
To one of my friends that watched the movie. And he's like, who do you think? And I was like, are you
Literally.
serious? Bro, it's Godzilla versus Kong. Like, I'm just going to say Godzilla.
Yeah, for obvious
Yeah.
reasons.
And he's like, yeah, but that's not the reason. It's not because he's Godzilla. Like, King Kong had it down. But the reason why he won was because Godzilla, they made I think the Japanese made a replica of him that was a robotic Godzilla. And he just massacred everything.
So they brought back Robot Godzilla.
Mhm.
So why would they even title it Kong
What is this? The
versus-
Power
It's
Rangers?
called like Mecha
No, Mecha Godzilla.
Mecha Godzilla, is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Something like that. I
So
had a roommate who was really, really into Godzilla movies.
I don't
But,
think I've met anyone that was into Godzilla.
Dude, and so much too. Like I can't even give him shit because his plethora of knowledge about all things Godzilla is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Can you imagine?
Like if there was a museum, he would be their lead historian.
Oh my god.
Doing
like,
research on Sunday
he
night on
knows
Godzilla.
who directed, if I remember correctly, he knew every person who directed every Godzilla movie. He could remember I think it was like down to the year which movies came out and in correct chronological order, at least in how the movies came out. He'll tell you about how the special effects were done for like every movie dating back to the originals. And he
it's just his
loved
thing.
them. He defended them
Yeah.
so hard. He's like, I know they're cheesy and I know a lot of them are bad, but I love it so much. And I'm like, I can respect that.
Well, it seems like he's in love with like the concept and the character.
Well, it's like a dude, it's like a guy who loves a Dodge Neon. You know what I'm saying? Like you could buy a Dodge Neon right now for like $2,000 and they're basically all a shitbox. They're almost all terrible.
Yeah.
But there's certain guys who absolutely love them and then turn them into these amazing race cars, right? That can actually like corner pretty well and they're stupid cheap.
So they're trying to find things that are slept on and
then find the beauty within it.
yes.
And
That's
I
a
was
way
like,
of
the
being unique.
ending of King Kong, dude. Remember that? Where they
Which-
were like,
which
what killed
one?
him?
The Jack Black one? Or the
Jack
black and
Black
white
one.
one?
Yeah, the Peter Jackson one,
Peter Jackson, okay.
which
Yes.
was phenomenal, by the way, for 2005.
Its special effects were better than anything. that
Dude,
had come
it
out at the
blended in
time.
so well with film.
Bro, do you realize that especially the old King Kong, he was a simp.
What are you talking?
I remember seeing
No,
this thing on Twitter. No, it was a complete simp.
No, because of the blonde girl. I forget what her name is in the movie.
Yeah.
I forgot the line they mentioned, but it was just
It's not that
Whatever.
he's a simp. It's just that
But going back to when he died,
yeah.
they were like, how or what happened, right? And they were like, the beauty killed the beast, basically. And it just closed off with that. And I was like, ooh, that's something to like.
What? It ended
So-
with that text at the end of the movie?
No, he literally, Jack Black said, the beauty killed the beast. So obviously the beauty of the chick, the beauty of the world, the beauty of everything. Like he was in a different spot. And then he just, I don't know, just wanted to kill himself. That's why he climbed the building, apparently.
just don't watch that movie.
I thought
It's not good.
you meant in the sense of like just his scale, his grandeur,
Mhm.
like his presence, right? I thought you meant like that would be the beauty aspect of not Godzilla, of
Well-
King Kong, because it's so unbelievable,
Well,
right?
that's the
Having
thing.
like a silverback gorilla that's
Yeah.
how tall is that thing?
25 feet, I believe.
Oh no, it's got to be way taller than
No,
that.
they mentioned it a million times in the movie.
Really?
25-foot beast. Yeah.
Only?
Yeah, that seems so small.
I think the older movies,
Godzilla's
yeah.
like literally the height of skyscrapers.
But you got to remember that King Kong has climbing abilities. So he's like the size where he's huge to us, but he's still can maneuver much quicker than Godzilla.
He's
I
a
believe.
And then
Monkey.
Godzilla just like, what is it? I think he has laser vision, or like he opens his mouth and he has like this really acidic,
Yeah.
hot magma vomit that goes everywhere, something like that. I just can't imagine King Kong would win that.
No.
Which
no.
is-
Realistically,
yeah.
the movie would end in like
Makes-
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just
Obviously.
destroy the entire
Could you
planet.
imagine?
Dun, dun,
It's like
dun.
no, it's just exposition for like 30 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Just all this build up, and then you finally get to the fight. You're like, oh yeah, like it's go time.
Yeah.
Like let's see King Kong kick Godzilla's ass, right? And then he just gets annihilated, like just laser
Yeah.
beams straight through the head.
Yeah, just
And then it cuts
that's
to
it.
black, and then
Yeah.
they play the music at the
Just
end of
so-
Godfather 2.
just so gruesome. Here's one even better for you. 21st Century Fox.
21 Savage.
No, 21st Century Fox. The lights turn on, and then they just go off. That's it. It just ends right there. We already know who won. Like,
We lost our budget.
yeah,
on making
we
this
lost
movie.
our budget. We lost the interest. We just wanted to display something for
This
you.
movie is so bad, we just wanted to come out with a trailer.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah.
That's it.
I heard you guys cooking up some stuff earlier.
I mean, more specifically, Zayd was diving deep onto this more than us.
But like how deep? Are we talking like deep Chicago style or
I don't think we're going deep dish. We're doing like deep dish, like how Blaze Pizza does it. You know,
Okay.
where it's not deep dish, but they
it's
say
like
it is.
surface level thin?
Or it's like a Domino's would be more relatable. You know, where it's just pizza with thick ass crust.
Yeah, so it's a smaller pan, but it's still a pan.
exactly.
So it's not deep dish.
You
Yeah,
guys are fucking me up with this analogy.
because deep dish is more of just like a pie that happens to have a whole bunch of tomato sauce and toppings in the middle of it.
Exactly.
It's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Really.
Except the tomato sauce represents the CIA and the whatever.
Whatever we're about to get into.
Exactly. So yeah, guys, it's about to get spicy up in here.
Muy caliente.
But yeah, basically this is just a few well-known examples for people who have done their research, but also to most people they're not aware of these secret, what would you say, government programs or government experiments?
I'd say experiments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's
experiments.
hundreds of them, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the most notorious
If not
ones.
thousands.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
yeah. The government only lets you hear what they want to let you
That's
hear.
why we live in the Twilight Zone.
What's our first one?
Anyway. Going back to that X-Files crap.
I was gonna do the Twilight Zone one, but I'm like,
Nah.
I'll let Sai do it.
What is the first one?
The first one's Project MK Ultra, which
Mm.
is probably the most famous out of all these. I don't know which other ones you got lined up here, Zayd, but
I'd say MK Ultra's the
This one is creepy.
oh, this one's important to talk about. Let's
Yeah.
stay on MK
Yeah.
Ultra though.
Let's please just talk about MK
So,
Ultra.
just to relate it to a larger audience, MK Ultra is essentially the government project that they have going in season 1 of Stranger Things.
Mm.
Right? So
really.
yes,
Hmm.
that's like kind of I mean, it's not labeled as MK Ultra, if I remember correctly, but it's basically the same thing. Human mind control experiments, trying to push the capabilities of what human beings can actually do.
So if you were to pull up a visual example, Stranger Things is a good one.
Stranger Things is like a good thing to relate it to.
First season.
Yeah,
Okay.
think like, government somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, probably in this case in Stranger Things, nearby a town that's really small, like
Mhm.
everybody knows everybody. And then a lot of the facilities are underground, so it's like extra secret, and they're experimenting on people, right?
Mhm.
What the human mind is capable of, like if people can be clairvoyant and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, would you like me to read off of your bullet points that we got here, or did you want me to just?
Most important ones we can let people know what it was about, what they did, so on.
So I'll just go ahead and read a
where
little
it's at
bit.
today.
I'll read this tidbit right now. No, it doesn't exist today.
It does not exist today.
Does
No,
not
no, this
exist.
was
Okay,
back
that's
in
a very
like
important factor. Then.
Yes, this
Yeah.
was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Back in the 50s.
So it ended. Was there a hypothesis of some sort where they expected something?
Yeah, they were expecting that. Well,
We'll get into
We'll
it.
get into it.
We'll
We'll get
get
into it. Right.
I'm just hella excited.
So let's. Yeah.
Give me the
Right. I mean,
info.
it's super interesting, and we're going to talk about some crazy stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
So, Project MK Ultra,
Origins.
a code name given to a program of experiments on human subjects that were designed and undertaken by the CIA, some of which were illegal. Big shocker. Experiments on humans were intended to develop procedures and identify drugs to be used in interrogations in order to weaken the individual and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture.
Mhm.
As mentioned, the program engaged in many illegal activities, including the use of U.S. and Canadian citizens as as its unwitting or unknowing test subjects. MK Ultra used numerous methods to manipulate its subjects, mental states, and brain functions. Some techniques would be things such as the covert administration of high doses of psychoactive drugs, usually LSD, and other chemicals, electroshock therapy, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, most of these happening simultaneously with one another.
Wow.
Now, when you read over this is some Dr. Evil shit.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And a common theme with a lot of these examples is a lot of this popped off during the Cold War. So the CIA was trying to gain any edge they could over the Soviets.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean the extent to which they're willing to go to in order to even gain a little bit of
Yeah.
information over their enemies is astonishing.
Like, do you know where, if I had to just guess where they got this idea from, that humans were capable of so much more in terms of, I guess you'd call it the supernatural in this instance, right? I think that dates back to World War II when they tried to bring in alleged psychics, people who were, especially clairvoyant, and they would bring them into a room and try to find a target just based off of a photograph.
Mhm.
And allegedly, a couple of those times, those people were right.
Oh, remote viewing, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they were trying to use remote viewing back during World War II to find high asset targets that carried over into the Cold War, which I'm assuming kind of birthed the idea of Project MK Ultra. Just as like a concept, like is it even possible to push somebody past these points is what I think they were trying to go for, and in the process violated a lot of human rights. A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I do like is it weird that I do understand like why the project exists? Obviously, it doesn't seem like it's that bad, but the bad part is the test subject
Mhm.
is a human being.
Well, it's not only the test subject,
And it's a form of
how-
torture.
It's how they were carried out.
Yeah.
That was more of the problem, right? Because you can do like human clinical trials on things like for drugs nowadays, right?
Mhm.
You get ads on YouTube, or like better yet, there's people who purposefully involve themselves in like research studies
Mhm.
as a means to make money, right? Like if you have no money and you don't care what's going inside of you, you can make a couple $100 off of a study and live pretty well for like a week or two.
Just
Yeah.
be a test subject for a couple weeks.
I'm not saying it's a great idea. In fact, it's a horrible idea, but sometimes that goes down that way. But with these people, right, they're testing research drugs and they're trying to find any like ill effects, right?
Yeah.
In this case, they were, I guess you could say, testing psychoactive drugs like LSD on people just to see what their effects could be. But the problem was they didn't stop at just administering psychoactive drugs. They took it to the next level. And then they found a level after that. And then they kept digging and digging and digging, right? And that's how you get the verbal and sexual abuse, sensory deprivation, isolation simultaneously. That was usually involved with some LSD in the mix. For example, in Stranger Things, they have the sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah.
Right? Or they even build the pool in the high school or in the gym, right? So they would put people into ridiculous states off of these substances, right? Just pump them up with so much, it's unbelievably dangerous. And then leave them in sensory deprivation and isolation tanks for however long it would last, and they would try to see what the results of that would be.
Mm.
So, like as you said, right? I'm looking at your document. It says the scope of Project MKUltra was broad, with activities carried out under the guise of research at more than 80 institutions, including colleges, universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. The CIA operated using front organizations, although sometimes top officials at these institutions were aware of the CIA's involvement. And according to author Stephen Kinzer, the CIA project was a continuation of the work begun in World War II era Japanese facilities and Nazi concentration camps on subduing and controlling human minds.
That's the wild thing.
Which this also ties in to another secret government project
Mhm.
that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes.
What the hell?
So,
The whole purpose is mind control. They want
Mhm.
they want to create drones, for lack of a better word, to carry out specific orders. And of course, it didn't work out the way they expected, so that led to a lot of deaths. A lot of this was exposed. I'm not sure when, but
Yeah, so it wasn't fully the CIA that started this.
no, it was fully the CIA.
it was the CIA's starting and doing, and then they just kind of expedited some of the other work to different institutions, universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies.
Okay. So it was.
So you can assume a lot of people knew about it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so top officials, including FBI, must have known, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you don't even need to read all that stuff off. Just
Just a
lays
couple.
down the basis of like what they try to do specifically.
This just brings so many questions to my head, but I think
Like-
like one of them is this is like basically things that go against human law or human rights
Mm-hmm.
are just they get broken so often, and they've been happening for years.
Yeah.
Years and years and years and years. Now, I know that top officials are working on this. So, are there even more top officials that have a say in this to say, no, what the hell are you doing?
I was watching, it was something to do, it was like I think it was actually a guest on the Joe Rogan podcast who was talking about how there's certain things that are too top secret for the president.
Yeah.
And so, like, even the president doesn't get to hear exactly
Yeah.
everything.
We've all heard that. And that's insane.
Yeah, right?
Because then it's like, why would you want to be a president? I would rather be the captain of the universe or something else.
I
Captain
think
Universe.
at least in the eyes of the government,
Mhm.
right? The president is supposed to be worrying more about foreign and domestic threats, how to manage people's lives, within the country on a day-to-day basis, things more along that lines. Once it starts to get really supernatural and weird, and usually highly illegal, they don't like to tie in the president into that.
Yeah.
And think about the context. This is the Cold War, so we're talking about missiles ready to fire.
And then the
aim.
Soviets have their missiles ready.
Yeah,
Like,
kids are doing bombing drills at
Mhm.
school. That's like, oh, there's a nuke going off in the distance. Get under your desk, like
Yeah.
that's gonna
So
save
we're
you.
waging war right now.
Privacy laws probably. I don't think they existed during this time, and
Yeah.
it's not like
Well,
the
this was-
government's going to care about it. They're gonna. If they have the power to do things outside of the box, they're going to take that.
And that will forever be a thing. I believe that firmly.
And I think they also viewed MK Ultra as a means of like defense as well as mind control,
Mhm.
right? So, for example, the Russians allegedly had like a bunch of sleeper cell agents within the U.S. that they brainwash, and then they essentially unbrainwash them, and then turn them into normal people, normal civilians. But if you hear the trigger phrase, and this is also debated as not being true or whatever, but if they hear a trigger phrase, it's like now they're back in their secret agent mode. They know exactly what their task is. They know how to carry it out.
Mm.
They go do it.
And I think
Allegedly.
a lot of the they did this a lot on CIA employees because they had a hunch that they were working with the Soviets. So
Ah,
the goal was to get information from inside Soviet Russia, use that to their advantage.
it's the for me, it's the whole time frame of when this is all happening, because this seems so damn advanced, right?
And this is also happening during the McCarthy era,
Yeah.
which is important to keep in mind,
Yeah.
right? That's when there was a broadcaster, Joseph McCarthy. He went on air, and whether he just got information, like little sources, as you want to call them, And those sources would let him know if people allegedly were communists or not.
Mhm.
And then he would go on TV and blacklist like celebrities, politicians, whoever, right? That
Yeah.
was of notable reputation. And then try to out them as communists. And a lot of the time it wasn't true. He was just saying it because he thought the information he was getting was right, or he was blatantly lying
What the
just to
hell?
boost ratings
Yeah.
and shit
It
like
was the
that.
equivalent of cancel culture back then or today, but a more
Like
a more
way
costly version of it.
exactly, because being outed as a communist back then, if you were in America, right, is essentially a social death sentence.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also, you could get government involved with you because, I mean, they had nukes pointed at us, ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a really scary time in the
Yeah.
U.S. The
Like,
past.
Yeah, you could be prosecuted for it.
And it's not only they didn't only use LSD. For example, I think the Nazis used ketamine on in certain concentration camps. So it's the full breadth of psychoactive substance.
Yeah.
Full spectrum.
Yeah, not fun.
What the hell?
We can go on to the next one though.
Okay.
we-
So, I would have to assume that they did use drugs on these people, obviously.
They did. It's not a matter of I think. It's a matter of they did.
They did.
Yeah. It's
He-
not.
bro, heavy doses too.
Yeah. And in fact, we actually have a document right here. And I'm assuming you found this just online, like
Yeah, it's
from
just an image,
CIA
yeah.
or wherever. And this is Project Mkultra Subproject 8. And then it says Subproject 8 is being set up as a means to continue the present work in the general field of LSD at, and then redacted information until September 11th, 1954. And then the second bulletin says this project will include a continuation of a study of the biochemical, neurophysiological, sociological, and clinical psychiatric aspects of LSD, and also a study of LSD antagonists and drugs related to LSD, such as LAE. A detailed proposal is attached. The principal investigators will continue to be redacted information. Yeah.
Internal memo.
Yeah.
It's like anybody can search this shit up and
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
see how guilty they are.
Yeah, and it said their estimated budget was around $39.5 million.
Which, if you
Damn.
adjust for inflation, is a lot more today. I think it's like, what is it, 80 something?
I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out right now.
Ooh.
So that was 1954,
Spending big money
2021,
on mind control.
and that was 39.5 million.
It's basically AI.
Well, very shitty attempt at AI.
It's
Yeah.
around $389 million in
Oh,
today's
never
money.
mind.
Oh my
Okay.
god. Oh my god.
Yeah. The inflation rate from 54 to 2021, in case anybody was curious, is roughly 884.7%. Just in case you wanted to know.
What's our next one? Is
Next one
the
is-
Nazi one?
Yup. This one is damning.
This one has some interesting talking points because it's tricky.
It's a very strange one. And
Wonder
it's
if I've heard it.
Operation Paperclip.
Now,
Ah.
from what I understand, if I can describe it correctly, during the downfall of the Nazi regime, a lot of scientists, I guess, split from the Reich, and then that's when the U.S. took advantage, kidnapped a lot of these scientists, engineers, so on, and used them to their advantage.
So they didn't split from the Reich necessarily. What happened was they got offered a deal. Right.
Okay.
And some of these scientists from Nazi Germany went to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
They were paid by us to, conduct science and whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And some of them got picked up by the Russians, some of them weren't wherever, and then some of them just fled to Argentina, which is very strange because now you can go down to Argentina and there's entire villages that speak only German.
That's trippy.
What?
Some say
Yeah.
Adolf is still there.
Yeah, he'd be like, how old would he be? Like, it's like
A billion years
It's
old.
like 118 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Give me a fucking
You
break.
still alive, bro?
Not with
Yeah.
that cocaine habit.
Dude, I just saw a video like that too.
No, I
Like,
think,
yeah,
he,
he's
I
still
think he
alive.
actually did meth.
He did a lot of
Well,
shit. Like,
He's one of those guys where it's like, yeah, I wake up with meth, I take opioids around noon so I can keep lunch down, do some coke afterwards to pick up the mood, And then I don't know, I'll take something to knock my ass out,
It's absolutely
like
insane.
ketamine, horse tranquilizer. The Nazis were doing a lot of crazy shit. A lot of crazy stuff.
A lot of heavy drinking too.
Heavy drink. Well, that was more the Americans.
Was it?
Oh yeah, definitely. All we gave our soldiers was morphine and alcohol.
Oh my God, no,
Yeah.
no.
There's actually an argument that, one of the reasons why we lost or didn't do as well in Vietnam, I'll just use the term lost because we technically lost there, but was because a lot of the soldiers were doing things like marijuana, acid, and
Yeah.
some other. Also, a lot of heroin was being done over there.
Wow.
And they were just like, man, like this war, it's just why are we here, man?
Fuck
Like,
this, man.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah.
way too calm. They're too logical right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're thinking things through. They're like, what is so useful here that we really need to be killing each other? And then they
Mhm.
just get sniped. Like,
Yeah.
so I was like one of the reasons, allegedly. But let's get back to Operation Paperclip, World War II, right?
Yes,
So these
sir.
Nazis, the U.S. is gathering them, Russia's gathering them, some are fleeing, and we utilize them to create some of the greatest scientific achievements in modern American history. For example, Dr. Werner von Braun, one of the biggest Nazis, in the Nazi party, we picked him up, and he was the head of our rocket ship program.
Hmm.
He was the main reason that we got into space. And he was developing missiles for Nazi Germany during World War II, and he actually utilized some of those original designs, if I remember correctly, to create the rockets that we used to get us into space.
Which I think was it Saturn V?
Yeah,
the
it
one
was-
that actually took us to the moon.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Saturn V.
He was a major part, a big player in that.
I mean, it was basically his entire design for the most part.
But this brings up like a crazy ethical question. Okay, you have to think about context. It's the US versus the Soviets. Like, what do you guys think of taking on, would you call them Nazi sympathizers? Or is it just a case of like they grew up in Germany at the shittiest time, so they happen to work for one of the most terrible groups on the planet?
Well, I think it von Braun's facility that he operated during Nazi Germany, it was either him or another guy that we picked up, and I just don't remember the names because I'm not German. But I believe he was like he would hang the 5 slowest Jews every day, like the least productive.
Jesus.
So these guys, like, they're not Nazi sympathizers. Well, they are Nazi sympathizers by definition. And it wasn't that they grew up in a shitty time. A lot of these guys were genuinely horrible people and
Yeah.
should have been persecuted for war crimes or crimes against humanity as well.
Mhm.
But like you said, the U.S. was like, hey, if we don't pick them up, Russia's going to pick them up, and we can't afford that.
Yeah.
Because as terrible as Nazi scientists were, they were very intelligent, and they proved to be vital assets for us in the long run, which is horrible
so
to say.
insane.
Yeah, dude. Everything we know today has been heavily influenced by that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. Like, I think
Van Burrow? What is
von Braun.
Von Braun. There we go.
Are you thinking of Martin
Van
Bu-
Burroughs, your
you-
French.
Are you
Yeah,
thinking
I don't
of
know.
Martin Van Buren?
Yeah, I am.
No, those are two totally different people.
Von Bruh.
Yeah, but it was a really weird time in American history where it was like, we're gonna get our asses handed to them if we don't pick these guys up, and as friggin' terrible as they are, it's like they are smart.
It's a rock and a hard place. It's survival.
It's genuinely, it's such a weird situation.
yeah.
It's very bizarre, and they still probably should have been prosecuted after
Yeah.
everything was said and done. Or not probably, they definitely should have. Fucking horrible people. Like,
And I'm not sure. I think I've heard some things that Coca-Cola has something to do with the
I'm
Nazis.
Yeah.
so glad you brought this up. This is one of
this
the
is like the fact that you see when you look up facts on Google.
No,
What
no,
the
it's
fuck?
it's a very strange story, but I love it so much. So during World War II, Coca-Cola, an American company,
Mm-hmm.
stopped supplying their drinks to the Axis power countries, right? And Coca-Cola at that point was already so popular worldwide that to get rid of it in the public spectrum caused an uproar, especially in Nazi Germany. So they had to think of something. We need to come up with our national soda, right? And they were trying to come up with some flavors and they were synthesizing things. And what they landed on was a carbonated orange flavored beverage that they named Fanta.
Mm-hmm. Fantasize.
Yeah. And so
Fantastic.
orange Fanta became the drink of the Nazi party.
What a
Jesus.
beautiful thing. Get caught with cocaine and change your recipe so you pull everything out.
Yeah, it was created in 1940 during World War II by the German Coca-Cola. So I guess it was Coca-Cola, but Germany's division.
Mm.
Oh.
That part I did not know.
Yeah, interesting fact.
Yeah,
Love that
because there
fact.
was a trade embargo set up between Germany and the U.S. at the time, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
For obvious.
What's our next one, Chief?
What is it?
The next one, you're going to have to explain this one because I've heard of it, but I don't know a lot about it, and that's Operation Mockingbird.
Oh, this
Operation
one, I mean,
Mockingbird.
this one doesn't have, I didn't put a lot of information down for that, but it's
So-
basically where the CIA was manipulating mainstream media, also during the Cold War, in order to create propaganda for U.S. citizens.
Oh, okay. So it's media control by the CIA.
Yeah,
basically.
just think of what they do today, except times 100.
And what was the point of this operation? To
To make sure the U.S. consensus was on their side.
Control
Ah.
public opinion, make
Gotcha.
sure that whatever shady thing the government was doing, as long as it was okay to present to the public,
yeah.
you know, they would be like, yeah, go ahead, go
Mhm.
for it.
Okay.
And
I
this
thought
is
it was
what they've
some-
always been doing. CNN does this, Fox does this, just at a
Well,
smaller.
it's
Almost
just
every
different-
major news.
Yeah, every news station is a control center. That's all it is.
Well, it's like somebody was telling me the other day, it's like news channels should not be allowed to be titled as news channels. They should be
No.
opinion pages,
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
which is
Opinion stations.
yeah, it's weird, right? Because like nowadays you get so many different sources of information, right, that say so many different things.
Yeah. And we
And
have
then-
access to international now, so that's a different ballgame.
Exactly.
So you're gonna be
right.
like, wait, how is this piece of news completely different in Spain?
And something with this, who was it at CNN that came out with the information that they were hyping up COVID numbers and doing all sorts of BS? It was Project Veritas, I think.
I didn't even want to bring that up, but like recently, semi-recently at least, like within the past couple weeks or so, there was I believe it was a reporter, allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly for this because there's some shadiness that's going
Yeah.
on, right? Like this guy was being recorded and he didn't know about it. And it's like, how can you even verify it was the person talking? Allegedly, from the video, you could see the guy's face. Then you go back to his previous work on CNN. Allegedly. I'm going to keep pushing that word. So, allegedly, a CNN reporter got caught talking about how they were utilizing their platform, CNN, to push the agenda of the Democratic Party forward and essentially influence an election.
Mm.
He was bragging to the person that was secretly recording that they were essentially the reason that Trump got voted out of office. And they were utilizing, I think it was, they were utilizing the COVID rates and whatnot
Yeah.
as a means
A
To
lot
their
of fuckery.
advantage, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, here's the thing. When I see news stories that say COVID rates in Los Angeles have dropped to 1%, or less than 1%, excuse me, I don't believe that. I just don't.
No. You can't say that. I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because we can't believe the truth and we can't believe the falseness. You don't know what to believe. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere around 13%. It's probably at a low. It's been at a low.
Oh, I'm saying it's low. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. in
But
comparison to what it
1%,
has been.
yeah.
It's not less
And
than
and the
one.
thing is less than one. That's
Yes. I'm
It's like
there's
China
no way.
saying
Yeah.
their entire population, oh, we only have 3%
Oh, no, that's
infection
like,
rate,
No, that's
bro.
like China saying that they basically stopped COVID back in April
Yeah.
of last year.
because
Fuck
if they
outta
said
here.
it exceeded over 89%, I don't believe that either. That's what I'm
You
trying
know,
to
you know
say.
how I view CNN and Fox and all these
No.
other news outlets? I view them the same way I view communist China.
What the
they are
fuck,
literally
bro?
the way they create and craft a message to make you believe that the world is a certain way,
Mhm.
it's the exact same.
Yeah.
There is no fucking
No,
difference.
did you just relate it to North Korea?
In essence, yeah, he kind of did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way,
What's the-
it's the Democratic Republic of China. They're no longer communist.
Yeah.
Sure.
Remember the interview when James Franco he was like, "Let me go see if that supermarket actually has fresh food." Turns out it's not even a supermarket.
Of
Yeah.
course.
It's just a cardboard freaking painting, and it's just plastic oranges.
It's like
And
a grocery store you'll find at
It's
Disneyland.
true. It's
Or it's
true.
like,
that was what he was saying.
Like way back when people were like, they only let in like 5 to 15 people into the country at a time, right? They would go into the dining hall of their hotel room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be so opulent, like so over the top, just the grandeur, the beauty, the everything. It's to the nines.
Yeah.
But there's like 5 people in there, and it's set for at least 150.
Yikes.
And they're just like, "Where is everybody?" And they're
Yeah.
like, "Are you having a good time? You liking dinner?" And it's like, "Yeah, but
Great success.
why'd you set all this up if nobody else is gonna come?" And it's like, "Oh, don't worry, like they're on their way."
It's so fucking obvious. But yeah,
Yeah.
don't trust mainstream media.
No, no mainstream media is wholly trustworthy.
Yeah.
I'm not like, we have to give them credit. They're not lying about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything they say is a lie. Like obviously there's certain stories that they throw out there that are just it's truth, right? Because I mean, there's only one source that you can pull that information from, and everybody's pulling from that information. So that's what they got, right?
Mm-hmm.
But perhaps where the opinion part comes in, right, is the dire need for some reason within news pages or news sources, right, like CNN, Fox News, people like that, to be affiliated or link it to a political party. Like, I feel like there's a heavy need for that right now, and I don't understand why that is. Like, why there was such a push. Like
Well-
politics are so volatile now. It's
Yeah.
like you can't even bring them up with somebody saying, like, "I'm going to beat the shit out of you."
Yeah.
Well, you
The
got to look
only-
at who they're funded by.
Yeah. The only thing you can do is just wait, note that, and then wait around, because over the years you'll never know. This can
Yeah.
link back. You could be like, "Oh wait, oh my god, connect the dots."
You know, he brings up an interesting point.
Yeah.
Like, well, I need to Google that first. Does CNN, and I'll assume Fox News does the same thing, but from the RNC, does CNN receive funding?
And I personally don't. I don't even give them an ounce of credit, because the narrative they're creating is allowing people to become so divisive that it's destroying the country. So I don't even give them that.
I don't think I
credit.
remember the last time I actually took something from Fox News.
Yeah, like when do you go, like on a Sunday night? Do you ever have the urge to open up fucking CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC?
God,
No.
no.
Because
would-
it's just negative shit.
I'll just go to WSJ or just like The Guardian or Reuters or anything else.
Even then, it's like, oh, 3 children got
Apparently-
shot.
Isn't The Guardian like the most left leaning of all of them, though? Isn't that like the most skewed?
Well, The Guardian, I think, is good to start off your research, because then you can.
okay, yeah.
It's very, yes, left, but it sometimes does lean on in the middle. But at the same time, it allows you to see what other sources are saying too.
And what I'm saying is exactly that.
Yeah.
Check other sources.
Yeah.
Even if they don't line up with you, like your political affiliations. Like if you're a hardcore Democrat, go look at what Fox News is saying. Go check I think it's, what is it, like EAN or whatever, that like hyper Republican news page.
Is it EAN?
EAN, I think.
Yeah.
Dude, not even. I have a different approach. If you are a Democrat, speak to normal conservative people. Don't even go to the news source, because they're just going to create some skewed version of reality.
Yeah, but it's you don't get to talk to the source. Like you can't have a billion people trying to talk to one guy, So that's why I'm saying you go to all these different sources, you compile your own opinion, and you move on from there. Right?
Fair enough.
Because most of these sources are going to have similar information. So you can see which parts line up, right? And you're like, okay, here's like where the facts are, because this number's the same on CNN as it is on Fox News. But then there's all of those like intricate wording that they use, and that's where it becomes the opinion piece, right? That's what you can usually skim over, right? Or you can read it, you can let it help guide your opinion, whatever. It's up to
Yeah.
you. But just take it all in, let it sit on it for a minute, and then make your own opinion, move
Yeah.
on.
Fair enough. Yep.
Yeah. So Operation Mockingbird.
That is funny.
And then the last one is probably,
I think the most fucked up one.
yeah, by far.
Operation what?
This is I wouldn't necessarily call it an operation. This was more of a research study, but probably the worst. I would argue the worst study in American history, and it's the Tuskegee syphilis study.
Oh God.
Are
Are you aware of this?
No, but I heard syphilis and I was just like,
It's
oh God.
it's genuinely disgusting. Like it's so horrific.
Please dive into details. That's what I want. I want to see how disgusting this is.
You can thank the CDC and a few other
Zayd,
main players for this
I'm
one.
going to change your wording here.
Just go ahead and read whatever you
I would
want.
say it's unethically.
Yeah.
So the Tuskegee syphilis study. It was an unethically abusive study conducted between 1932 and 1972. It's 40 years long.
Mm-hmm.
By the United States Public Health Service and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So brought to you by the PHS and the CDC. The purpose of this study was to observe the natural history of untreated syphilis. Although the African American men who participated in the study were told that they were receiving free health care from federal government of the United States, from the federal government of the United States, they were not. The Public Health Service started the study in 1932 in collaboration with Tuskegee University, a historically black college in Alabama. In the study, investigators enrolled a total of 600 impoverished African American sharecroppers from Macon County, Alabama. Of these men, 399 had latent syphilis, with a control group of 201 men who were not infected. As an incentive for the participation in the study, the men were promised free medical care, but were deceived by the PHS, who never informed subjects of their diagnosis and disguised placebos. Ineffective methods and diagnostic procedures as treatment. The men were initially told that the study was only going to last 6 months, but it was extended to 40 years.
Damn.
The study continued under numerous public health service supervisors until 1972, when a leak to the press resulted in its termination on November 16th of the same year. The study caused the deaths of 128 of its participants, either directly related from syphilis or related from complications.
Wow.
It doesn't. I think in U.S. history, there's no more egregious example of just
Like,
evil.
Evil, disgusting, just fuck the moral compass kind of shit.
And I think this was the reason why we now have standards for ethical experimentation on human beings. Like you have to go through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I think it's because of this.
Yeah, that was just like, okay, this is not cool, and especially if it turns public, which eventually it did.
Well, it was like,
Because these things, I assume, are usually confidential. It's a confidential experiment.
well, yeah. I mean, imagine if the public knew about that.
Yeah.
Like back in the
Back in the day, like as it's happening.
It'd be a problem,
Mhm.
100%. And I mean, they took impoverished black people, right, who didn't have many options, and like for what they were presented with, and they were just like, "Hey, we have a means for you to make some money. You want healthcare? It's free. Come on." And it's like,
For a limited time.
could you imagine, like, just being in that time, 1932, right? What was even going on in 32? Was the Depression at that time?
Yeah, it was the Great Depression was in the 20s, wasn't it?
It was from 29 to 39.
Mm.
So that was during the Great Depression, probably around the height of it. And imagine the government comes to you and it's like, "Hey, we can make you very healthy. It's 100% free. You don't have to worry about it. We know you don't make a lot of money as of right now, and this seems like it'd be a great opportunity for you to, I guess, assist the public and also your country." You know, and they're like, "Oh wow, that sounds like a great idea, right?"
Yeah.
Like, what sounds better, right? The country wants me to help, you know, save the country in the future or learn more about something to help the country. Great. And then you're secretly tricked and they give you syphilis, which I don't know if you know what syphilis does to you.
Explain it to them.
Syphilis.
The most insane thing about this is that they have color pictures of them being injected by these happy fucking researchers, and even the people who are being administrated this stuff, they're smiling because they think that they're receiving free healthcare. It's just
It's the
hard
most
to
deceiving thing,
compute.
and I imagine, like in 1932, it is very easy to get tricked. We live in a day and age now to where we know there's all kinds of deceiving things, like Photoshop. You could do AI, bro. You could
Mm-hmm.
Deep fakes.
deep
is a
fakes.
great example.
Yeah, great CGI. Motion tracking, everything. But getting tricked, we are more aware of it now. Scams, things like that.
Mhm.
So makes sense that we have an alert. But back then, why would you be alerted that this is a scam or a potential scam?
You don't have Google.
I mean, they didn't even think about it at the time. They
Yeah.
were just like, "Oh, the government's giving me free
Yeah.
stuff, like free healthcare.
Yeah. The
I can help.
government's-
I can help the country. Like that sounds great." As a black man in 1932, to be presented with those options is
So-
essentially unheard of.
Yeah.
Turns out the government created the first ever scam.
No, that is not the
No,
first.
They've
ever
been
scam.
creating the first.
They've
the
been
first
been
ever
creating
scams.
first scams. That's the whole point of this.
But here's some of the symptoms.
We
right?
learn from the best.
So we got the primary
Jesus.
symptoms, secondary, and then I will relay one of the scariest types of syphilis that you can get, one of the scariest symptoms. But primary symptoms for like a standard syphilitic infected person would be
Yeah, in case you guys didn't know.
things like
Syphilitic.
painless, firm, and round syphilitic sores or cankers. I think that's how you pronounce that.
Mm-hmm.
And they appear 10 days to 3 months after the bacteria enters the body. Cankers resolve within 2 to 6 weeks. However, without treatment, the disease may remain in the body and progress to the next phase. So here are the secondary symptoms.
No.
That'd be things such as sores that resemble oral, anal, and genital warts, a non-itchy, rough red-brown rash that starts at the trunk, spreads up the entire body, including the palms and soles. Muscle aches, fever, sore throat, swollen lymph nodes, patchy hair loss, headaches, unexplained weight loss, fatigue. I'm sounding like a drug commercial.
Literally.
Yeah. If you experience any of these,
Exactly.
Please consult your
You may
doctor.
have syphilis. You should go get checked out.
if you die, please consult your doctor.
But here's the
What
thing.
hell?
So there's a couple different types of syphilis, right? There's latent syphilis, which just stays in your body for can up to several years, and there's no actual proof of it being in your body till the symptoms start to show up, and then
Mhm.
usually it's too late. Tertiary or late syphilis, that means the syphilis can be inside your body for 10 to 30 years
Wow.
after the initial onset of the infection. If that's the case, usually your heart, blood vessels, liver, bones, and joints are damaged. And then you have stuff that could be like a neurosyphilis. It's a condition that develops when T. pallidum is probably how it's actually pronounced, bacteria have spread to the nervous system. Usually it enters in the bloodstream through the spine, goes up into the brain. It often has links to latent and tertiary syphilis. However, it can occur at any time after the primary stage. So a person with neurosyphilis may be asymptomatic for a long time. And then symptoms that could pop up once neurosyphilis becomes prevalent would be things like dementia, altered mental status, abnormal gait, numbness in the extremities, problems with concentration, confusion, headaches or seizures, vision problems or vision loss, weakness. So
By the way, the spine, another thing that I read that they mentioned is they would do routine spinal taps on
Mhm.
these people.
which is unbelievably painful.
I have no idea how painful that is, but I can imagine it's close to like childbirth.
Well, imagine a syringe that's probably about this long going directly into your spinal cord, and what they're doing is they're taking a sample out of it. So they go in, or maybe they're going for the blood. It all depends on what they're trying to get, or maybe the marrow too. I
Mhm.
don't know, but
I
Oh
think
my
it's the marrow. Yeah.
they go in there and then they suck a bit of it out, and then they take that out. So now, not only is there a hole that they put into your spine, there's now an area within it that's missing
Like-
cartilage,
And it's usually
or like
like
tissue.
Fluid.
usually
Yeah.
right here. Look at the base. So,
That
yeah,
is, dude,
not fun.
no, man. That is evil.
So
Yeah.
essentially, the U.S. government, back in 1932, told the Public Health Service and the CDC they gave them the green light to test 400 disenfranchised black men and essentially signed their death warrant
It's messed up, dude.
when they started the study. It's fucking terrible.
Just a little bit of truth for you. Some reality.
It's a reality check right there.
It really is.
That's why you gotta keep an eye on the government, man. They're usually doing something that you won't.
I mean,
like.
it's only fair because they keep an eye on us. So
That's a good point, yeah.
There was actually okay. I'm sorry, you said that and it reminded me of something. It was this show that Kristen Stewart. It's like her. I think it's her new show. It's on like Hulu or something like that. And she meets up with one of her friends at a restaurant, and the dude's like, "Oh, sorry, hold on a minute." She's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm tracking. I left a gentleman at my apartment, and I'm tracking his location to make sure he's leaving." And she's like, "Isn't that illegal?" He's like, "Honey, if the government tracks people, I can do it too."
yeah. Well, that's a general like my mindset at least. Like, don't be a hypocrite, dude. Just like either just say straight up, "Yo, we do this," and under certain circumstances, you could, but not just like let's just say I turned on a tracker, right, and then they got an alert and they would just come arrest me, just for turning on a tracker when I didn't do anything with it. That makes no sense. There has to be like some leeway, or it has to be good on both ends, right? Don't spy on me. I won't spy on anyone.
But it's like, at least for
But that's
conspiracy theories, or like not, but like these
yeah.
projects and whatnot.
It sounds like I'm spying on someone, but I'm not.
No, I know what you mean, but like for these projects, it's like if you want to do research on LSD,
Yeah.
back in this was 1954, right? Think about the political climate at that time. If I remember correctly, most people are Republican
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. LSD, like what even is that?
Yeah.
Right. They had movies coming out at the time of Reefer Madness, right? Reefer Madness, and it was about these crazy these teens were going crazy after smoking this wild plant called marijuana, which technically isn't even the name of the plant. It's hemp. I think of marijuana is something that grows in Mexico. Like,
isn't it like a tobacco?
It's like a wild
It's
tobacco
like some
or something
bullshit,
like that.
Yeah,
That's what hemp
scapegoat.
is?
No.
Or-
A marijuana is like a wild tobacco that
Oh.
grows in Mexico, I think.
Gotcha.
Right, and for some reason they just tied that name to hemp.
To hemp. Okay.
Yeah. But it's like, so that's coming out at the time, and now it's like you want to tell the public that you're doing LSD studies? Like what? Like how are you going to even tell? How are you even going to bring that out, right? So they did that in secret. I'm not saying it's a justification,
Mm-hmm.
like a valid justification. I'm just saying that's why they kept it secret at the time. That, and also they were doing a lot of illegal shit, so they didn't want to tell the public about it.
Cold War.
Right?
Yeah.
Just like with Operation Paperclip. Yeah, how are you going to tell the American public, the majority of which have spent the last couple years fighting the Nazis, right? Contributing, whether it be building bombers or fighting on the fronts, being in the air, or just going around and collecting scrap metal, right? How are you going to tell them, yeah, those guys that you went over to kill, we're hiring a lot of them now and they're going to make our shit? That would have pissed off the entire country.
Yeah.
Like, they would have felt morally betrayed for a number of valid reasons.
You know what doesn't piss off the country?
What?
The 2 a.m. podcast.
We make the country happy.
Do we?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Sure.
Well, the main thing I took out of this is that, just it's not always pretty.
No.
Just I mean, I know that, this past year the government has done wonders to many families by giving out unemployment and other sorts of benefits for having children and being married. So just because it's all pretty on one side doesn't mean it's always pretty, Just like no person is perfect. It's the same thing. The government is all filled with human beings.
It's true.
They
So-
make mistakes and do terrible things.
Yeah. Do your research, guys. You'll be surprised what you will find out there, including the 2 a.m. podcast. It seems like everybody's having a hard time discovering. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what to do.
We're literally a click
Guys,
away.
Apple Podcasts, tell your family and friends. Please review us. Give us 5 stars. Leave us a comment on Instagram at the 2 a.m. podcast. And if you have not heard, we have a 2 a.m. clips channel. We have 3 clips a week coming out, maybe even more.
You okay, bro?
Yeah.
I'm listening.
But
I'm hearing
subscribe
the
to
news.
that. Turn on your bell notifications because you do not want to miss a single video. And if you're interested in the full version, we also have a YouTube, the 2 a.m. podcast. What do you know?
Who would have guessed?
Yeah. And
Send
yeah,
us out
guys,
with this beautiful intro.
guys.